Hello, Holistic Chamber of Commerce family. Welcome to a Meet a Member segment. I'm really excited about this. We have Mary O'Dwyer with us, and she's going to be talking about breath work. I love breath work. I use it in my yoga classes, and I can really see the efficacy of it. So I'm really excited to have her here today to help us make the connection on breath and finding success, and it's like, what does that have to do with business? But Mary's going to talk about this today. Real quick, Mary is a transformational breath coach and speaks to audiences worldwide about how breathing easier is a catalyst to releasing pain, hurt, and stuckness, as well as being a catalyst to overall success. So welcome, Mary. We're glad you're here. And why don't you just start us out by telling us a little about your journey and why you were drawn to breath work?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Laura, for having me on here today, and for the Holistic Chamber of Commerce for hosting this. I've been a proud member for multiple years now, and it has been a wonderful experience. I discovered breath work around 10 years ago. At the time, I had everything in the world, everything that the world would tell me I had. I had a part-time business doing health and fitness. I had a great husband. I had two great kids that were doing well, thriving at school. We had no money issues, no health issues. And yet I was feeling completely unfulfilled and blah. I felt like a spoiled brat. And I felt like I didn't have permission to share this with anybody or complain about my life. Until one day I actually ran into a neighbor who was somebody I could be vulnerable and safe with, and I shared with her what I was feeling. And she looked at me and she said, "Mary, I think you're spiritually disconnected." And I looked at her and I went, "And what now?" And it was a little out of my comfort zone at the time, but that comment of hers sparked something in me. And when that happens, the universe always responds. And shortly afterwards, I discovered Reiki healing, I discovered essential oils, and I discovered something called transformational breath. And when I discovered transformational breath, it was life-changing for me. I joke now with my clients that I didn't really read the fine print about the transformation, because it really did transform my life in every way. It transformed my relationships with my children, with my husband. It completely changed my business, because as I progressed and learned about myself with the breath work, a lot of my programming, we'll say, was revealed to me. A lot of those limiting beliefs that I was believing were true, that were running in my subconscious, that were dictating my life, became very apparent. And then I started to be able to work to shift those things. And on hindsight, I began to see that lack of fulfillment, all of that blahs that I was feeling back in 2012, was actually my soul calling me to do something more. And I like to share this story because some of us have to go through rock bottom, have to go through very painful periods in life in order to make a shift. But for some of us, it can just be an overall feeling of discontent. And when you feel that, that is your soul letting you know that there's something more. And as far as this turns in with success, because at that time I was doing a health and fitness business. I was a health coach. I was a fitness trainer. And I loved that. That was a big part of my life. And I still believe in eating really well and moving your body. But it wasn't what I was here to do on this planet. And so my soul was calling me to do something more. And when I embraced breath work and became a facilitator, and that was completely outside of my comfort zone at the time, in 2017, I decided I had to come out of my breathing closet and share this with the world. And in a very basic way, that propelled me to the success that I'm having today, because I am following my mission. I am following what my heart, what my soul came here to do.
Ah, that's wonderful. It's so lovely. And I totally relate to like that. Your, like soul is screaming at you and you're like, la, 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 doing other things. And finally, something happens that triggers that, pay attention, wake up call. Now, all of us here mostly are business owners and entrepreneurs. So how can breath work help with like our success in relation to business?
There's three big ways that it can help. There's lots of ways, but I'm going to talk about the three big ways. The first is obviously something similar to my journey, because you might be in a business that isn't the right business for you. You might have all the skills, you might have all the things, but if you're not doing what you're here to do on earth, you may not have the success, because in a way your soul's going, nope, 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 you got to go over here, you got to go over here, you got to go over here. Like I was hearing for years, you got to do that breath work. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't want to be that weird breathing lady. Health and fitness is a lot more, it's a lot more fit in the box, and it appealed to my left brain world, and kept me very safe. But I needed to pull away from that. So that's the first way. The second way is we all have unique breathing patterns. Life experiences happen to all of us, and we learn to hold our breath to sort of control the emotions, the uncomfortable and discomfort of emotions that might come up for us. And when we hold our breath multiple times a day over years and years and years, we tend then to restrict breathing either in our upper chest or maybe in the middle or in our low belly. And this then can start to impact how we show up in the world. So let's say you're the type of person, you're the type of business person who gets lots of great ideas. You're really creative. You get this idea and you run with it for like a little bit. And then you get another and you another idea and you run with that. And then you get another idea and you run with that, and you don't kind of finish anything or find success with everybody. That's the type of person who has a big connection with spirit. They get lots of these downloads, but they're not very grounded. And so by working with your breath and bringing more breath deep into your belly, you're going to become more grounded so that you'll be able then to run with those ideas and bring them to completion. That's the second way breathing can really impact your success. Now, let's say you're the type of person, kind of like I was too, the doer, the person who takes all the courses, the person who knows all of the things, the person who applies all that she learns. And yet you're not seeing the success. You might be getting mediocre success, and you might be working like 40, 60, 80 hours a week. You might have that programming of like, if I just work hard enough, I'll finally break through. Hard work pays off. If you're running on that programming, you may not be then opening up to all of the inspiration that's available to you and all of the guidance, because perhaps the marketing that you're using isn't the most effective to connect with your audience. Or maybe the people that you're working with aren't the best tribe for you. Maybe there's a whole other demographic for you that actually you need to work on. And so when you can start then to maybe those breathers typically have really good belly breaths. They're very grounded, but not so much flow to their chest, to opening up to that inspiration and that inner guidance. And so by working with them and helping them with their breath can help them to become more open and more trustful of their own guidance, rather than all of their trust courses and people and experts outside of them. Not to say that those experts don't have value, they do. And I have gotten a lot of great mentoring, a lot of great things, but then being able to discern, well, what's right for me and what's right for my business? What feels right for me? What feels right for right now where my business is?
So what I hear you saying is that it really helps us connect intuitively to ourselves. So we're not like falling into that traps of, oh, I should be doing this, or this is going to look good. It's like we're allowing, that inner guidance to lead us, but also working through our self-limiting beliefs, because we all have them. If you think you don't have them, you are sorely mistaken, whether it's about money, whether it's about earning cap, whether it's about self-worth. Working through those allows us to be so much, freer as individuals, but also as practitioners and business owners.
Yes, and part of the work I do, I work with the breath. I work with all sorts of other energy techniques like kinesiology, where I'm muscle testing. Like, what is the glitch? What are the beliefs that you're buying into? And they come up all the time. I've been doing inner work now for 10 years, and I've just uncovered a new limiting belief that has come up. And I'm not quite sure what the programming is behind it. So I've reached out to some of my teachers and shared, I'm running into this scenario and this is a limiting belief I have. And I'm reaching out and getting help, because the more work we do, the more layers get to be revealed. And as we connect more with ourselves, the awarenesses of these limiting patterns comes up really quick. we don't spend years in the same pattern before we realize there's a limiting belief. It might be 3 months. Like this particular one that I'm going through right now, I noticed it when I reviewed. I'm like, oh, I noticed this coming up in July. So now we're in September. So it's only 3 months. And I've recognized, oh, I've seen this 2 or 3 times. This is a limiting belief pattern instead of it being 3, 4, 10, 20 years, which means then you can course correct much more quickly.
Mm. So I thought of this question. It's a little on the fly, so I hope it's okay.
That's okay.
But you talked about, being seen as like the weird breath lady. And I get that. What does working with you actually look like to maybe make it like not so weird to anybody who's thinking that?
Great question. And, we're not used to thinking about our breath as something that we can harness. Most of us go around in the world like, oh, I'm breathing just fine. It keeps me alive. And sure, it does. It keeps us alive. But the way I approach breath and the way I educate and teach my clients is breathing is respiration. So respiration is re-spiritization. Because our breath is the life force. It is the prana. It's the chi. It's the one thing we can't live without. It is spirit. In the Christian doctrine, the Holy Spirit is the breath of life. And so that's what we're breathing in. So it's a really, really high vibration. And so when people come to work with me, it's coaching a little bit. We set intentions. And then when we actually do our breathing session, we breathe just in a very specific way. We breathe in and out with no pauses. And energy may come up much in the same way as if you've never done yoga. A lot of people, when they're first new to yoga, they may notice themselves getting emotional as things start to release from their bodies with the breath work of yoga and with the movement of yoga. And so in a session with me, we allow some of these emotions that we have repressed. I talked earlier about we hold our breath and then we have unresolved emotions. So the way we breathe actually stimulates in a way some of these repressed emotions and allows us then to release them in a very safe way. And what we learn in a session is that emotions don't have to be as scary and overwhelming as we think. We spend so much of our life avoiding uncomfortable emotions. And I teach, we're going to breathe through this emotion. And when we do that in a session, we breathe through it in usually 1 to 2, maybe 3 minutes, that emotion has passed. And then you get to feel so much lighter. And what I love about the work I do is that I'm teaching people how to do this work at home. And then these tools that they're learning is actually something that they can apply in their real life, so that when an uncomfortable emotion comes up, their boss says something or their mother-in-law says something or their children says something that normally would have triggered them, they have that awareness of like, if I just take some deep breaths, I'm going to allow this feeling to move through me rather than shutting it down. And then people can go to a place where they can respond rather than react in those situations.
So it almost sounds like you're teaching people how to breathe in certain situations, but it's not just like, oh, take a deep breath, because I don't want people here to think like, oh, she's just going to tell me to take a deep breath. There's like patterns though, right? There's specific techniques that you use with inhale and exhale and like through closed mouth and open mouth and stuff like that, correct?
So there's a very specific way we breathe, and it's also hands-on. So I am looking for finding where those repressed emotions, every time we hold our breath and stop a flow of an uncomfortable emotion, that emotion gets stuck somewhere in our bodies. Like most of us can recognize and relate to the fact that we hold on to stress, generally speaking, in our neck or shoulders. That's where most people hold it. But we hold on to any depression that we don't process, any grief, any loneliness, any anger, any of those times that you have bit your tongue, any of those times that you have sucked it up and been strong for others. That gets stored in our body. So in a session, I'm getting in there, I'm looking to see where that is in your body. Maybe it's in your hips, maybe it's in your rib cage. And I'm touching those areas so that, or if we're doing it online, I guide the breather to put their hands in those spots, find those tension spots, and then we start to release that emotion so that that person can then move through it like they weren't able to when they first experienced it. And now that little nugget, I like to call them, that's no longer in the muscle. So that's a little tightness of the muscle that now has been resolved. So over time, the more of that we resolve, the actual more flexibility we're bringing back to our physical breathing muscles, so that now they can expand and we can start to take a deeper, fuller breath. So there's a lot of physical benefits to doing this work too. There's just so many layers. It heals physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
I love that because we aren't always aware of what's going on in our bodies. So I think that's brilliant. So yeah, thanks for sharing though. This has been really great. We are out of time. So I want to put in the chat here quickly how people can reach you. So can you just quickly tell people how, if they want to get more information about working with you, how they can get in touch?
Yes, you can go check out my website. It's www.thebreathofnewlife.com. You can also email me at mary@thebreathofnewlife.com. And I work with clients worldwide. I speak to organizations on Zoom and in person. And my mission is just to share with everybody who's willing to listen what I have to share about the breath.
Thank you so much, Mary, for joining us today and sharing your breath knowledge. We appreciate you being here. Holistic family, thank you for watching, and we will see you around.
Thank you.